Again, I'm Charlie, I'm an alcoholic.
Charlie!
And thank you so much, Tony, for asking me to doing stuff like this, stuff I absolutely hate doing, and it is the absolute best thing for my life every single time. I know it now, so I don't think twice about it if anyone asks. Yes, I'm sure that everybody here is going to be cursing you in the parking lot on the way home, but
They do before the meeting, why not then?
yeah. So, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. If you're new, please don't take this as the word of AA. Like, there's hundreds of meetings every night. If you don't like what you hear, find another meeting. Eventually, you'll find your home. My experience is nobody really ends up here on accident. I ended up here on accident a bunch of times, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to stick this time. So I grew up in a house that was pretty chaotic, did not feel welcome there, and you know, there's some pretty good reasons for that I won't bore anybody with, but kind of growing up, I thought that was the reason that I was the way I was. And I have since come to find out, thanks to you lovely people, that that's not the reason why I am who I am. I have this peculiar mental twist where I get a feeling and I try to run away from it, and I end up using things that I want to use over and over again until I want to kill myself. That's pretty much the way it is, and that's not. There's similar feelings in, you know, other people, and they don't go the places that I go. So, you know, growing up in that house, got used to reading people, reading the situation, knowing when things are about to heat up, and I was super tense. So by the time I got that first drink at 15, I had earned it, was ready for it, and I got that feeling like this is gonna be very useful going forward. At 15, I couldn't drink all the time, but I knew that that was going to be a solution. The second time I drank, I woke up at the Rose Parade. I did not try to go to the Rose Parade, but that's where I ended up. And you know, I woke up in the backseat of a car with a girl, fucking amazing. You know, it was great. And I learned really quick that you know, this is my pathway to fun, and it's going to change this boring life of mine into something better. And at that time, I was working at Ralph's, and I ended up becoming like the little mascot for the older guys I worked with. And we would, it was the days of cargo pants. We would sneak, you know, 40 ounces into movie theaters that were, you know, movies were on their second run. We'd smoke in the movie theater, drink, and it was great. It was working. Pretty quickly, started having consequences. At 18, I got my first DUI. I had a wonderful excuse as to why it wasn't my fault. Between 16 and the time I got sober at 23, I had my license suspended for like most of that time. I think like of the 7 years, it was like 5 years it was suspended. And I drove the whole time. Not sober a lot of that time. I know that I've heard people say like a normal person gets a DUI and they stop drinking. An alcoholic gets a DUI and they stop driving, and I didn't neither. So I don't know what the hell that makes me, but you know, that was constantly how I did things. So got a second DUI at 21. And at that point, like in between 18 and 21, I had, you know, some close scrapes where I almost got in trouble. Getting another DUI, I thought, all right, I could see that there is an issue. I'll try out AA. And I went to Dunsmore Club. I was told I could get a court card filled, be a good idea. And the first meeting I went to, like, was at the time where all these guys had sober cards, like they had their name on it, phone number, and like, you know, one day at a time or other sayings and stuff, and they were handing them out like right when I got there. And looking back, it's like, man, good on you, like trying to help out a newcomer. At the time, it freaked me right out. I wanted nothing to do with it. It seemed real pushy. And then I started hearing people talk about God, and I thought, I'll take my chances. Like I'll do this one on my own. And about a month later, 2 months later, my sister was getting married, and she got a toast of bride. So I ended up that night in a jacuzzi full of people, throwing up in that jacuzzi after hitting on a girl at my whose husband was also there. Now it was just it's just the shit I do. It was just I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I just thought I was a fuck up, and I mean both were true. So I realized pretty quick, like, I cannot drink. That's a problem. But I never had that kind of stuff happen when I was doing drugs, so I kind of transitioned a little bit.
Oh.
And I'm grateful for drugs. They got me here a lot quicker. Let's see. At 22, I ended up having gave myself a pulmonary embolism, and ended up in the hospital. And I came out of that, and my family was, they found out, like the doctor said, hey, your son has a secret, you need to go find out what that is. And they went and found, I had drugs. I was staying at their house because I, kind of couldn't keep an apartment for very long because, again, fuck up. And let's see, so we got out of the hospital, I went to an intake meeting for treatment. And the guy was like, well, you gotta quit drinking, and you gotta do, quit doing drugs. And I was like, well, hold on. I didn't go into the hospital drinking. Those drugs, I get it. I don't do drugs anymore. I got it. But I got to drink. It was going to be one or the other. And just wasn't ready. Ended up like walking out of that meeting in a huff, like a spoiled child, walking down Glendale Boulevard, and had my mom drive next to me in a minivan, saying, "Will you get in the car?" And I was like, no. So I hear a lot of people say that they have, they've got demons. It's like, I just have a spoiled child in me, and that guy's running the show like all the time, unless I'm listening to you people, and that's just it. I get that now. So I used for about another year, 2 years, and I got arrested for possession, and very grateful for that. I went to treatment out of jail, and the first meeting we went to in treatment was Crown City in Pasadena when it was on Holliston. And as I was walking up to that meeting with the druggie buggy, all the guys from the house, I saw a guy that I had known from high school. Like, it was this guy that I had gotten into a fight with one of his friends, so every time I saw him after that, we did the like square off thing where it's like, tough guy and all that. And I see that guy greeting people at the meeting, and he was a lot larger now. So in my head, I'm gonna get into a fight and get kicked out of treatment. And so I remember sitting across the street, like smoking cigarettes, like, go the fuck in the meeting, just like go inside. And finally, they called the meeting to order. I'm like, you gotta go in. So I was like walking up to the door, and I was gonna try to like, squeeze by him. And he's like, oh hey, you, come here. And he comes over and gives me a hug, and it was like, it blew my mind. It was a complete 180-degree reversal from every other time I'd ever seen. His little brother had hit me in the head with a full beer bottle just like months before that. So it was not what I was expecting. And it really set the tone for AA for me. So that was in July. October of that year, that guy was loaded again. And the girl that he was with that Halloween night drove the car off of the Ocean View off-ramp. There's a bridge there, and they were both killed. So I'll break his anonymity because he's gone now. But Danny Morales showed me what we do when we get here. and how we treat each other once we get here, and then what happens if we go out. You know, that was burned in to my brain very quickly. Now, I wish I could tell you that knowing all of that, I got to work on doing my steps, and I listened to my sponsor, and everything was fantastic. But again, like, I got that little spoiled brat. Like, I always think that I'm doing the right thing in the moment. And then as I'm looking back, I was not. Like, I'm always, like, I'm suffering from arrogance. I think I know how to do this. I will take the limited amount of instruction from somebody else so that I feel like I'm turning over control and I'm listening to you, but in fact, I'm trying to do things my way all the time. So, you know, I kind of was in the program, ended up in a psych ward after about 90 days, because again, you know, not really working a program and taking away like the medication that I had to keep me sane. That's what happens, you know. So going into a psych ward, realizing that there are people that actually have mental illness that they cannot treat through throwing a buck in a basket and talking to a bunch of drunks on a Wednesday night, that realization was really helpful. So I got out and I was willing to like sponsor and start to hear steps and things like that. Even still, like for off and on throughout my sobriety, I have had a lot of struggles with the higher power. Like that, hands down, like I grew up in a very staunchly atheist household, and the idea of a higher power just did not gel with how I was brought up. And I've always been able to rely on a group of drunks until I wasn't. You know, God is a group of drunks or good orderly direction that worked until it didn't. So, you know, the steps they say are, the whole point of the steps is to clean house, introduce you to your higher power at a point where you're, you know, humble, ready to accept it. This has been, I say this all the time, this has been a case of slow sobriety for me. I keep, you know, I feel like I peel back a layer of the onion and I'm like, all right, let's take a break. And then things get uncomfortable. It's like, well, you know, peel back another layer of that onion. Lately, like working on that relationship with a higher power that I don't fucking have any understanding of whatsoever has been the only thing that's kept me there. It's been pretty amazing. Like now, let's see, last thing, catching up. I immediately after getting out of the psych ward, like 2 weeks out of the psych ward, I started dating, which is not a good idea. A girl who was also in the program, also a terrible idea. And I like, I can't even believe this. I'm still here, but like, with like 60 days sober, I ended up getting in a fist fight with my now wife's ex-boyfriend on the PCC campus. And my sponsor at the time was like, "What are you doing? You're gonna die." And I was like, "Yeah, I understand that. I think I've got it." You know, and I'm like looking back, like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sorry, but, you know, what was I thinking? Now, that same woman is now, she's a therapist. I'm pretty handy. She's a therapist. You know, we got 2 kids. You know, like we're the people that I come across in my daily life have absolutely no idea what a colossal dipshit I am. Well, at least I like to think that they don't, but you know, whether they do or not is, yeah, I'd like to think so. And I mean, I always say like a life beyond your wildest dreams. It's like this was never in the plan. Like none of this stuff. And somehow, it's all fallen in my lap. It's been absolutely amazing, and I have yet to screw it up. And that, like 100%, I owe to all of you. Like, left to my own devices, I blow it out there every time. And with that, shut up.